Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and that is the story of the healing of the blind man. There are several stories in Scripture that talk about the healing of the blind man. There's a couple different guys that get healed. There's a couple that get healed. But the one I'm talking about is specific to the pool of Siloam. And so he is out here begging, this blind man. And it says it's like at the noon of day, because in Scripture it's so funny. If you really read them, you'll hear little things like it was the sun was up and this was there, and just like little hints that things are happening that might not just pop off the page to most people. So we know that it was about midday, and this beggar was out there. Midday in warm weather, because we know that crowds form in warm weather, they don't form in cold weather. So it's midday, and it's hot, and it's warm, and this young man or old man, doesn't really say how old he is, let's say he's younger, doesn't matter, but let's say he's a little younger. And he is sitting there waiting for people to drop coins onto his tunic, because you take your little robe off and you lay it in front of you, and that's how people used to do it back in the day. Today, they hold signs up and say, hey, we'll work for food, or whatever that is. They call it fly-in signs. A lot of my homeless brothers and sisters will say, yeah, let's go fly signs on the highway for a few minutes. We'll make some money. I can go buy some cigarettes. And that's kind of what they did. But in this world, this man could not work anywhere else. He was blind, and there weren't resources, there weren't accommodations for him back then. So the only thing he could do was beg. And that was his profession. He was a beggar. So he was sitting there waiting for people to be generous and to give him something so he could eat. And then this day was particularly awesome because while he was sitting there, the crowd seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. And he knew this because he could hear the rumble start to grow. And we know that when one person in a crowd starts to talk, it's not that big a deal. And then second person, the third person. And then all of a sudden, when the entire crowd starts to talk, it gets loud and almost unbearable. So then he shouts out, he says, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. So those words are important because we know that because he says, Jesus, Son of David, he knows who this is. He knows that this is the man that has been traveling the countryside, healing people, teaching people. So when he hears those words like teacher, rabbi, which is teacher, Jesus, Messiah, he's hearing this stuff in the crowd. He's hearing people excited about him coming closer. And what does he do? He calls out to him. But Jesus continues to walk because he can't hear him. The crowd's huge. People are grabbing him and pulling him off to the side. So he says again, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And he continues on his way. And then Jesus hears the faint call for help from the crowd. And he turns. And he doesn't say, hey, come over here. He doesn't say, well, let me go over there. What he says is, I need some people to help me out. I want you guys to go get him and bring him to me. So that's what they do. They go and get him and they bring him to Jesus. And that's important because, like I said, he doesn't go to him. He doesn't say, come to me. Even though Christ does call us to follow him, he says, bring that man to me. Because Jesus knows he doesn't know exactly what's happening in the crowd. There's people. He's blind. Jesus knows this already. So they go and they get him. They bring him to Jesus and they place him before Jesus. And what does the guy say? He doesn't start off with, hey, help me see. He starts off with acknowledging who he is. He says, Jesus, Son of David, I'm telling you, I know who you are. You're the Messiah. And then he says, I'm a sinner. Have mercy on me. And that's what Jesus says. He says, what would you have me do? And he says, help me see. So Jesus spits on the ground, makes mud, puts mud on this guy's face. That is probably the grossest thing that Jesus does in the entirety of Scripture. He spits on this mud, or spits in the ground, gets the dirt, makes mud, and shoves it in this guy's face. It's just, yeah. So this guy is sitting here and he's been blind his entire life and he gets to be in front of Jesus finally, and he gets to ask for help, and Jesus spits on the ground and puts mud on his face. So this guy who hasn't seen, who has put all of his faith on this guy who he has not seen because he doesn't have sight, and he says, have mercy on me, love me. That's what he's saying, love me. Mercy is love. Love me. And what does he do? He spits on him. And he says, I know this is mud. I know this is spit. I heard him spit. I can taste the mud dripping down my face. This is disgusting. But this is what I'm worth. It's disgusting, but this is my value. That's probably what was going through his head. He's been pushed aside and called worthless his entire life. So his value is in the way he's treated. If someone drops a coin, he feels validated. If someone continues to walk, he feels worthless. And then now he goes before his God, and his God puts mud on his face and makes him even feel all the more worthless. And then Jesus says, go and wash your face off. Like, I'm not going to wash my face off? Like when someone puts mud in my face, I'm not going to wash it? But what does Jesus do? He says, take action. Now he says, take action. He didn't tell him to take action before. He sent his friends. His friends went and got him and brought him to him. And then Jesus says, now you have come to me. You have admitted you're a sinner. You've asked for my help. You've told me what you want. Here's some mud on your face. Go wash off. So he starts to walk to the pool of Siloam, and he thinks to himself, this is the worst decision I have ever made. Now I am, not only do I not have the money that I dropped when I got up to go see this guy, because I was so excited, I just dropped everything and ran. I don't know where the money is. I don't know how I'm going to eat. And I'm washing my face, and could you imagine the pain that man felt in his eyes the first time he washed the mud away? Think about how much your eyes hurt when you walk outside from a dark room. And that pain, and you can't see anything, but you can see everything, and it's just confusing. Well, imagine spending your entire life, 20, 30 years, never seen the color red or blue or green, and all of a sudden, in an instant, you wash your face and bam, you're just infiltrated with light. And you see these colors, you see red, you see green, you see blue, you see purple. What is that? What is that thing over there that's running around? Oh, that's a bird. I know what a bird is. I've heard birds. Every single person he's ever interacted with, he doesn't know what their face looks like. So when he turns and sees this crowd, there's just a big crowd of people. He doesn't know what Jesus looks like. And Jesus has already walked off. And it's not like he gets up and he looks around and there's nobody looking at him, because guess what? Everybody is looking at him. Because when he was walking to the pool, people were parting the sea for him, because they were just as curious as he was as to why and what Jesus did for him. Would he really be cured? Would he really be able to see? That entire crowd was watching him as he walked, as he went to that pool and started washing it off. Because not only was his faith important in that moment, but every single member of that crowd's faith was important in that moment. Because everyone that was around him chose to stop following Jesus for just a moment, because they weren't going to say, well, yeah, he healed them and that's good. They wanted to see for themselves. Scripture is filled with people who want to see for themselves. And what did they see? They saw this man look around, probably completely discombobulated, probably dizzy because he's never seen before, probably a little weirded out because, when you walk slow, when you don't know what's in front of you, it's a little different than when you walk fast. So could you imagine the excitement of all of a sudden being able to see and to be able to move faster? And then what does Scripture say? That he goes off and he proclaims the good news of Jesus. But he had to go off somewhere because the crowd already left. Jesus already left. He didn't know what he looked like. So what's the takeaway that we get from this? The takeaway is simple. We that follow God have to be ready to listen to God say, go and get that person and bring them to me. That is our call to invite people to church, to invite people to pray with us. We can't force them to come to church. We can go and get them. And hopefully they will find something that they love when they come to the table. And we can be here to teach and to love and to say, welcome home. I can definitely relate to the blind man in this story because in my life, I spent so much of my life not really worried about anything else except how I was going to survive. And then in a very epic and profound moment, I was converted to loving God. And like the blind man, I just wanted to go and proclaim, this is awesome. This is what happened to me. And sometimes it gets frustrating because people are like, yeah, that's you, but that whole religion thing isn't for me. And that's where we have to remember as ministers, as people who want to be true followers of God, is that, yeah, we can bring people to Jesus. But they have to say, I'm a sinner. I know who you are. Have mercy on me. And the only way we're going to do that is to live our lives in a way that don't make us look like hypocrites. We have to love through everything. And sometimes that is very, very hard. And sometimes love doesn't look like love when you're dealing with truth versus evil. And in our world right now, there is a lot of truth versus evil. Because anything that isn't truth is evil. And anything that isn't the whole truth is also evil. So remember that we are called to be like the blind beggar and to stand before God and say, we're not worthy, we are sinners, and to ask for mercy and to know that God is going to bless us. But in that blessing, we must go out into the world and to share his love because that's what he really calls us to do, to spread his love and to be his hands and feet. Until next time, work hard, be kind, and have fun. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.